Time for the Sunday Showdown, where we hit all 14 Sunday games for round 2 of your playoffs. We'll start with the Vikings and Chargers. Stabs?
Yeah, man, I'm going to make like Santa in the beginning of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, where he basically sat him because he had that red nose.
Wow, look at that.
Rudolph has averaged 5.5 fantasy points in game. Adam Thielen has been active, and the Chargers are averaging fewer than 4 catches a game.
Which reindeer are you? Are you like Blitzen or the ones that was hating on him?
Yeah, right now that's what I am.
Grumpy.
I'm not really
No,
sure.
Grumpy's
that's a
like,
different thing.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
Snow White or something.
Okay, well, I don't know how to pivot off of that because I'm saying that a good sleeper would be Irv Smith Jr. I know Adam Thielen is active in this matchup, but Irv Smith's been seeing more action lately. And if you're playing in daily formats, I think he could be your guiding light, right? Your red-nosed Rudolph. I'm just trying to back.
That's good.
I'm trying, guys. I'm just
Bring it
trying.
back to the holidays. Make us feel good.
All right, for me, I'm going to go ahead and say start Hunter Henry. I just always like to wait for the animation to come up. But again, the Minnesota Vikings are giving up 56 yards per game to the tight end position. Hunter Henry's getting targeted a ton. And as you see at the bottom of the screen, 11 plus fantasy points in 3 of the last 4 games. Understand this. Since he's been back, he is a red zone target. Him and Mike Williams, they'll try to get him the ball as many times as possible.
And tight ends have been Minnesota's vulnerability on defense all season long. Let's move to our next showdown. Seahawks visiting the Panthers. Cynthia?
I'm saying to, wait for it, start DJ Moore. I know that MJD loves all of the different route diversity that DJ Moore has been showing him, but it doesn't matter how many routes he's run. He's had 17 or more fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. Doesn't matter if you're only running slants, right? You can get those.
Or goes. Or
right. You still get those points.
They end up in the end zone. Who cares?
Who cares?
Okay.
MJD, what do you got?
I'm going to say start Tyler Lockett. I think a lot of people are going to be concerned, but I think it's a great flex play here. I get it. He didn't play. He hasn't played well since his
He's had 8 catches combined in 4 games.
I'm telling exactly. That's
So
what I'm trying
now's
to
the
tell
time?
you.
Is now
The
when you
time
can
is
trust him?
now. Listen, if you don't, you know what? I'm saying start him if you can. You do what you want to do. Just don't come to me, hit me up, talking about, oh, I should have listened. That's your problem. You see these, they're going to get back to that very soon.
All right, Fabs.
Yeah, my sleeper in this game is Ian Thomas. He had 10 targets last week, and that was without Greg Olsen, who has now been ruled out this week due to that concussion. He's got the Seahawks this week. They've allowed an average of 6.5 catches and the second most fantasy points to tight end. So if you need a tight end and Ian Thomas is on the waiver wire, please go and pick him up.
Next showdown, Broncos versus Chiefs from Arrowhead. MJD, back to you.
I'm going to say stream Drew Lock. Very simple. He is on fire. He's playing well right now. I get it. They're going to Kansas City. They're playing in there. But there's something about a hot quarterback. I once remember a coach for the Atlanta Falcons, Mike Smith, saying when he ran into Aaron Rodgers, there's nothing we could do. He was hot. Well, guess what? Drew Lock is hot. This is what it is. As of right now, he's hot.
Yes.
He's a hot boy. What do you want from him?
He's a hot boy.
He's a hot boy.
Drew Lock in this game.
Debate.
Remember in his first start in the National Football League against the
2 weeks
Chargers,
ago.
he did next to nothing. Then
This
he went
ain't
to
his
Houston and
first
played
start.
very well. The Texans defense is not good. Now he's got to go to Arrowhead Stadium, one of the loudest venues in the National
What does that have
Football
to do with
League.
him throwing the
He
ball?
is going to struggle in this game, and I love the Chiefs' defense because of it.
Okay, well, if that hot guy is so hot, then another guy you could be throwing it to, Noah Fant, is a good sleeper if you're looking at the tight end position. His usage has gone up. And ultimately, in this matchup, again, you have to make sure he's playing, but in this matchup, it's a really good spot and a good way to target the passing game because if you look at how they are against wide receivers, the Chiefs are actually way tougher on wide receivers than it might seem.
I'm starting Noah Fant this week for sure. I'm going to go Rams Cowboys now. Fabs?
You're going to love this one, Maury. Stream Jared Goff. The Cowboys, since week 10, are giving up nearly 23 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. Why? Because the defense is awful. I'm bitter. Start Jared Goff.
Oh, my goodness. He's
Yikes.
a hater.
Wow.
Cynthia?
How does one follow that when one has a sleeper of a Cowboy named Michael Gallup?
I like this.
Oh, you like it now?
I like it.
You're very fickle today. 10-plus targets in 3 of his last
We're gonna
5
lose,
games.
but I like it.
16-plus fantasy points in those 3 of those 5 games. I think this is a good way to target the non-Jalen Ramsey side. You're going to have to be throwing the ball if the Cowboys are going to want to win this game. It's not like it's a foregone conclusion, right? They're going to keep throwing the ball. Michael Gallup going to catch it.
Yeah, I'm going to say a sleeper here. Sorry, Red, I cut you off, but I'm going to say Brandon
you're
Cooks.
good.
And I think, again, everyone's like, where has he been? Where has he been? This is kind of how the Rams work out. You disappear for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden, you have a big game.
We're just supposed to trust him this
A
week?
couple of weeks. He's been disappeared for the whole season.
Maurice, you're going very risky
my
in
goodness.
the
You guys, it's a
semifinals.
sleeper first and foremost, okay? So calm down. But I'm just telling you, when he has a big game, I
When
made his show
Brandon Cooks
back
and
up.
Tyler Lockett,
Don't
when Brandon
your
Cooks and
boy.
Tyler Lockett are 1 and 2 for the week
Also-
at MJD.
That's right.
Also of note, Gerald Everett is out this week with the knee injury.
Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, I got your back here. How about Christian Kirk as a sleeper? I really like this matchup for Kyler Murray, and you got to figure who he's going to be throwing the ball to. And how about the guy who, since week 10, ranks 12 amongst wide receivers in terms of fantasy points per game, and his 8.8 targets per game ranks 13 amongst wide receivers. So Christian Kirk, sleeper.
Super obvious start. Baker Mayfield, right? It makes sense, right?
Super obvious.
Even super obvious.
Yes, it's very super obvious. I mean, he's playing the Arizona Cardinals. You got Odell Beckham wanting to get the ball. Jarvis Landry's ready to go. These guys are ready. I just think this is the game that he
Super
blows
obvious.
up. And then he gets you to the fantasy championship. Let's go, bake. Let's make it happen,
Super
baby.
obvious.
I
Yeah,
love
all right.
that. Put
Yeah.
Rhett Lewis in there.
Let's get Bears and Packers going here, Fab.
Beware Mitchell Trubisky. I am not being the Grinch, okay? Trubisky
Yeah, you are.
has had 4 big games.
Tell it
2
to the
against
judge,
the Lions,
Fabs.
they're not good. 1 against the
Ebenezer.
Cowboys, they're not good. 1 against the Giants, they're not good either. Lambeau Field, Packers, no thank you.
Ebenezer
I see
Scrooge.
your logic here. MJD, what do you got?
I'm gonna kind of agree with Fabs a little bit here, even though I think the Packers are gonna win the game. They're not the Packers. The Bears are gonna win the game. I'm saying start the Packers defense. Mr. Trubisky is gonna turn the ball over at least once. Can that defense turn it into a touchdown? I think they can. Their DBs have been playing lights out the last couple weeks, and that defense has been playing much better.
All right, next Showdown, Texans Titans meeting for the first time this season, Cynthia.
I have a sleeper with Carlos Hyde. I understand Tennessee, since Jeffrey Simmons has been playing, Tennessee's been a lot better at stopping the run. However, those short passes, you need to have some options in order to keep Deshaun Watson throwing. This is going to be the one it is. Carlos Hyde, really good sleeper upside.
Keeping our eye on Will Fuller, who is questionable with the hamstring injury. Fats?
Yeah, hopefully he plays too. That'll make this game even more explosive. Ryan Tannehill's a starter for me, guys. I mean, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy football since he took over in Tennessee. And you look at the numbers, the Texans have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to quarterbacks since week 11. This is going to be a shootout. Start Ryan Tannehill.
Would you start him over Patrick Mahomes?
Absolutely.
What
We'll
about
see.
Dak Prescott?
Yes.
Derrick
And Russell
Henry,
Wilson.
keep an eye on it. He's questionable with a hamstring injury, in case you missed it. Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen practiced all week and is expected to play versus the Chargers on Sunday. Will mark his first game since week 9 with the injured hamstring. So, Fabs, can you trust Thielen when owners really have no margin for error here in the semifinals?
To me, he's a flex starter at best. I mean, you look at the numbers, the Chargers have allowed the 4th fewest fantasy points to the slot. They've given up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers overall. This is a tough matchup. He hasn't played a full game since week 6.
And in case you missed it, Steelers wideout Juju Smith-Schuster, after some early optimism, has now been ruled out of his 4th straight game. with the knee
Somebody
injury.
drafted him at a 4th?
4th overall. I think his
Wow.
initials are TJM.
Yes, for those of you who did draft him in the 1st round, you'll have to continue to advance without him. So,
Oh,
Cynthia,
no.
can owners turn to either James Washington or Deante Johnson here?
Well, don't have a 4th overall expectation on it, but you can certainly turn to them. It's not a great matchup against Buffalo. Just in general,
right
wouldn't have been a great
in his
matchup for Juju Smith-Schuster against Buffalo.
Right.
I actually think Deante Johnson might have the bigger upside in this matchup because you might see less Tre'Davious White, which is kind of the hardest part of the entire Bills defense.
Right, and if you do get credit for some return yards
Yeah.
and points, you might get you that with Deante Johnson. In case you missed it, also in the Steelers-Bills game here, James Conner practiced in full today and is listed as questionable for Sunday night. He hasn't played a full game, though, since week 8. Fabs, are you trusting the Steelers running back if he's a go?
I mean, he's on the RB2 flex radar, I think, for me now. He hadn't played in a while. The last time he played, he didn't finish the game. I talked to Aditi Kikamwala, and she told me that she doesn't expect Connor to see 20 carries in this game. Maybe a little Benny Snell, maybe a little Jalen Samuels. I say he is a risk-reward flex RB2 at best.
And in case you missed it, Dolphins wideout Devontae Parker practicing in full today and is listed as questionable for Sunday's matchup with the Giants. His full practice, though, a positive step coming off the concussion he suffered last week. And he also signed a Well, ding, ding, ding. 4-year extension worth
got
over
paid.
$40 million. Maurice, do we like new money versus New York secondary?
I love new money.
Yes.
Versus anybody's secondary, but especially New York's.
I like any
because
money.
they just, well, we all do, I think, in that situation. But the Giants just cut Janoris Jenkins, so that means Devontae Parker, who is getting targeted a ton in the last couple of weeks, will start to probably play against the number 2 corner. Maybe Baker may shadow him a little bit, and I like that matchup a ton. Parker's finally showing why they drafted him so high a couple years ago.
Good for you, Devontae Parker. And in case you missed it, Bucs head coach Bruce Arians confirms his quarterback Jameis Winston will play Sunday versus the Lions with that fracture in his thumb. So, Fabs, are you excited about the matchup?
I mean, I'm excited about the matchup. I wish he didn't have this little fracture, but looks like he's going to be fine. The Lions have allowed a top 12 fantasy quarterback in 9 of their last 11 games. So even without Mike Evans, Winston should still be a top 10 fantasy quarterback.
And ICYMI. Raiders rookie Josh Jacobs is questionable with the shoulder injury, but did say Friday he plans to play versus the Jaguars on Sunday. That is, if the Raiders will let him. So it's the MJD Bowl, everybody. Maurice, how effective can Jacobs be against your Jags?
Do I have to answer this?
Yes.
You do. in
Okay,
fact.
I think he'll be very effective if they let him play. This Raiders run offense is phenomenal when he's in the backfield. Obviously, the Jags begin up a ton on the ground. We saw what they did to the Los Angeles Chargers. So if you got him, play him. But I just, like, right now, I wish both teams were really good because it's not like the MJD Bowl is like a hot ticket right now. You know what I mean?
In case you missed it, Chiefs running back Damian Williams practiced early in the week but did not practice on Friday. He's listed as questionable for Sunday's game with the Broncos, which of course just further clouds this completely confusing backfield that has frustrated us all year long,
Yes.
Fabs. What are we doing with the Chiefs
I
here?
don't want any of it. I mean, forget about it. If Williams is in there, if he's not in there. Listen, maybe LaShawn McCoy is a desperation flex if Williams is inactive this week, but the Chiefs have only had one top 15 fantasy running back in their last 3 games. Man, I can't trust this backfield. It's week 15, man.
I know.
Can't do it.
Go with what you know. And in case you missed it, Jared Cook, who did score 2 touchdowns in just a quarter of action last week before leaving with a concussion, was a full participant in practice today. The Saints do host the Colts on Monday night. We got to wait a little bit here. Cynthia, if he's a go, what are your projections?
You know, Fabs brought up a good point earlier. He said, really, if you have Jack Doyle, this could be fine because then you can pivot off Jared Cook to Jack Doyle. But ultimately, for me, Jared Cook, yes, it's like a top 9, 10 kind of at the position, but yikes, waiting till Monday is really scary.
Also note here that Drew Brees did pop up on the injury report with a right elbow issue. A little scary there, but was a full participant.